Hi, I'm going to present a persuasive speech about gun control. America is supposedly the land of the free, but 33,000 gun deaths a year, 4 deaths an hour, reveal what happens when the concept of freedom is stretched too far. Should your personal freedom to bear arms compromise another person's freedom to live? America is called the gun capital of the world. Not only is this statement proven by the numbers, there are 88.8 guns per 100 people, but also by the horrific events of gun violence that overwhelmed the nation. Names like Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, and San Bernardino ring traumatically familiar to most people and pose a tragic reminder of what happens on a daily basis because of lack of gun control. Now it is time to change the way of thinking in the United States, to ensure that these tragic events are left in the past, and to ensure that we have no more gun violence. The way to ensure that is that the nation needs to have stricter gun control, or, in other words, enforcing laws and politics that regulate the country's sale, ownership, and distribution of firearms. To create stricter rules so only fit, responsible people can get their hands on a gun. Currently, all states have some form of gun control. However, the challenge arises when the regulations aren't even similar from state to state. For example, the state of California has strict gun regulations and are one of the few states to ban open carry, while Louisiana, on the other hand, doesn't even require a gun owner to have a license. There are also loopholes in the system, so the people who are deemed unfit to have a gun by the regulations can still get their hands on one. One of these loopholes is that gun shows are not required to ask for a background check. The 2 boys who fatally injured 13 of their classmates in Columbine, Colorado in 1999 legally obtained their guns at a gun show. Another loophole is about mental health. Background checks currently look at your mental health record, but simply having a diagnosis isn't enough. One has to be deemed mentally unfit to have a gun by a judge to not pass the background check. So this is why more than ever we need gun control, and enforcing that would mean to have stricter gun regulations, including how many guns one can purchase at one time, stricter permits, education and safety classes, open carry laws, elaborative and stricter background checks, and of course making sure that there are no more loopholes like the ones I previously described. Of course, there is another side to the debate, the people who are against gun control. They emphasize that owning a gun should be for anybody to own a gun should be a fundamental right because it provides protection, therefore increasing safety, for example, against crime. And honestly, I understand how that concept is reassuring, that having a gun almost gives you the superpower to protect yourself and your family from harm. However, just because a gun may protect you from a criminal doesn't mean that its safety expands beyond that. If you think about it, having a gun might both put you and your family at more risk. A recent, frighteningly high statistic reveals that 63% of all gun deaths are suicides, and having a gun in the home increases that risk by 80%. So yes, guns may potentially protect you from a criminal, but they cannot protect you from yourself. So, not being careful of your gun and how you store it also creates a high-risk situation. 18% of gun deaths are unintentional, and sadly, many of these so-called killers are actually children who don't have the proper knowledge on how to handle a firearm and end up accidentally killing their siblings, friends, or family. For example, there was a little boy in Florida who was looking for his video games when he accidentally stumbled upon his mother's gun. Just like any little boy, he started playing with it, but ended up shooting his 3-year-old sister to death while she was trying to join in on the fun. Not only did this poor child die as a result of poor gun control, but the boy will forever have to live with the guilt of shooting his own sister and watching her die in his own arms. Sadly, incidents like this are not uncommon. Based on Trace.org, 75% of all unintentional deaths of children in 2015 were under the age of 12. However, in 28 states it is now illegal to not properly store a gun, And in 15 of those states, there has been a 17% decline in unintentional deaths of children. Another claim often said by people who don't support gun control is, but gun control won't stop criminals from obtaining guns. We'll get them anyway. However, this notion has been proved incorrect. Based on factcheck.org, 6 out of the 10 states with the highest homicide levels in 2013 were also the states with the highest gun records. Not only that, but gun violence and crime is mostly happening in poor, gang-dominated areas, and is also shaped by race. An African American man is 50% more likely to be killed by a gun than a white man. So, gun control, along with intervention, education, and economical support, will help these people not be victims of gun violence and ensure them a better future. So if the statistics prove that gun control has a direct correlation to lower death rates, then why is gun regulation still an extremely intense and polarized debate? Well, the main reason for the lack of change in the United States is because of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is part of the Constitution and states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." So the people and the government exploit the Second Amendment as a way to maintain access to firearms by saying that this gives them the constitutional right to have them. However, the beginning of the amendment is often ignored. A militia is an army that consists of trained civilians. And during the Revolutionary War, which was during the Revolutionary War, and of course that was right before the Constitution was made, many states didn't have an army, so they would instead use a militia to fight. But because of the Constitution, the Supreme Court has previously shot down requests for stricter gun control. In 2007, Washington, D.C. wanted a law to include a requirement for guns to be kept unloaded and disassembled, unless of course they were being used for recreational activity. But the Supreme Court meant that this was unconstitutional. If you look at the Constitution historically, it was ratified in 1788. And it says that citizens had the right to bear arms in case they need to fight for their freedom. But now we are in the 21st century, and there hasn't even been war fought on the US soil since World War II, and before that, 1916. Strangely, the people of the United States are still in some ways fighting for their freedom. They are fighting for the freedom to live a life without the threat of gun violence, without the threat of being held at gunpoint, without the threat of a school shooting, or your loved one taking their own life, or them accidentally taking the precious life of another. 33,000 people die every year in the United States because of gun violence. But that statistic isn't just a fact. Every single number is a person who lost their life to a bullet. And every single number is a life who could have been spared. I, as an American citizen, is asking the Supreme Court and people to support gun control to make America a safer place, to make America the land of the free once again. Thank you for listening to my speech.